Trump just signed an executive order that's going to impose a 25% tariff on all vehicles that are imported into the United States from other countries. Now, this is going to have some major implications for any country that builds their vehicles outside of the United States and sells them within the United States, but it's also going to have some major implications on American companies and American manufacturers that manufacture any part of their vehicle outside of the United States, even if they're an American company. But more than that, it's also going to have some major implications on the consumers as well. So let's talk about it. Now, just in case you don't already know what a tariff is, it is a tax that is imposed by a government on goods that are imported into the country, primarily to influence trade policies and also protect domestic industries and also mainly generate revenue. Now, there tends to be a lot of confusion as to who actually pays these tariffs, and while technically speaking, they are supposed to be paid by the country that is importing the goods, the cost of that does tend to be passed on to the consumers. But we'll talk a little bit more about how that's going to come into effect in just a minute. Now, the White House is currently saying that these import taxes will apply to key auto parts, including engines, transmissions, powertrain parts, and electrical components. Now, if you're wondering how this is actually going to affect you as a consumer, there's a few things to consider. Now, keep in mind that that 25% tariff is going to be placed on every vehicle that is imported into the United States, regardless of what vehicle it is, regardless of the manufacturer, and regardless of what country it's coming from. And that 25% is not set to fluctuate as of right now. It is supposed to just be 25% flat. Now, in addition to this tariff being placed on cars, there's already a 25% tariff that has been placed on steel and aluminum that's being imported into the United States. And it's kind of unclear as of right now if these tariffs are going to stack on top of each other or if it's just one or the other. Now, in the event that these tariffs are in addition to each other, then that means that some vehicles from certain countries could potentially face a tariff of 50%. Now, like I said, that is still kind of up in the air, so we aren't clear on that yet, but that is something to keep in mind for the future and moving forward as we learn more about these tariffs that are being placed. But needless to say, we're going to start to see effects of this 25% tariff regardless pretty quickly. First and foremost, this is going to show an increase of about $5,000 to $10,000 on new vehicles right out of the gate. Now, of course, this is going to be a problem because new vehicles are already on average around $50,000 and are already out of most people's price range. But not only is this going to affect consumers, automakers that are abroad, as well as even American automakers, are already expecting this to be devastating to their businesses and their profitability. Now, there were originally talks of these tariffs being placed on the auto industry as of February 2nd of 2025. But then that was immediately suspended for 30 days, making it go back into effect on March 2nd. But then, after just a couple days of it being in effect, on March 5th, Trump then exempted the auto industry for an additional 30 days. Now he has announced this 25% tariff on all cars, trucks, SUVs, auto parts, and components made in any foreign country outside of the United States. Now keep in mind that this does affect every country outside of the United States, even our allies, including Canada, Mexico, United Kingdom, Germany, South Korea, and all of our other allies as well. Now, why that's important is because now we are already starting to see retaliatory tariffs being placed from these other countries, even ones that we're already allies with. Now, before this executive order, the tariff that was in place was for only 2.5% for imported vehicles. Now, I'm sure as of right now, you're probably wondering why he's putting this in place to begin with. Now, he has a couple of reasons why he claims that he's putting this into place. It seems as though he's trying to encourage foreign automakers to move their manufacturing plants into America to help build the infrastructure of American economy. It seems as though he wants these plants moved into the United States in hopes of opening up more opportunity for employment in the automotive industry as well as the construction industry, because all of these plants being made are obviously going to need to be built. Obviously, over recent years, many of the manufacturing plants are located in Mexico or Canada, but he also mentioned that Honda is currently building one of the largest manufacturing plants in Indiana, which he claims is only due to the fact of these tariffs that he's putting in place now. Now, of course, another reason that he would obviously be putting this into place is to raise the revenue for America. The White House is stating that they expect to make about $100 billion in new annual revenue for the United States in tariff revenue alone. Now, while if you take this at face value, it does sound like a good opportunity to build up the American economy, get some jobs back going, build up our revenue, and bring things back into the United States. However, this is not going to be an easy or simple process. Many of these companies already have large manufacturing plants established in other countries. They've already got jobs in place. They've already got their production in place. They've already got their imports in place. They've already got their systems in place. And for them to just uproot and change everything on a whim is going to be pretty difficult. meaning that this is probably going to take a couple years before they're actually able to move their infrastructure to a whole nother country and come into the United States and have everything back cycling like it's supposed to. So in the time that it's going to take these companies to completely readjust to the new process of things, it's not going to be a painless process. And this isn't going to just affect companies that are based outside of the United States. This is also going to affect American companies as well, because these tariffs are being placed on parts for vehicles and not just the full vehicle. So companies like General Motors, Stellantis, Ford, they're going to start to see a loss in billions of dollars due to these tariffs for parts that are manufactured in Canada and Mexico and being imported into the United States. Now, in addition to this, consumers are going to start to see major flaws in this as well. Between May of 2022 and January of 2023, we saw a major drop in vehicles that were being leased. Now, when fewer vehicles are being leased, we tend to see a corresponding drop in 2 to 3 year old vehicles that are being put on the used market. So when we already have these new vehicles that are averaging $50,000, which is already out of most people's price range, and they put these tariffs on there and they raise another $10,000, most people are going to resort to looking for used vehicles. However, there's going to be a huge shortage in used vehicles because 2 to 3 years prior to that, people weren't really leasing, people weren't really buying. So it's not likely for there to be a sufficient supply of used vehicles when the market is demanding used vehicles. And of course, as usual with supply and demand, as that supply starts to drop and that demand starts to rise, the price is going to increase. And that's not really going to be a good solution, considering the price of new vehicles is going to increase more than it has already increased. Not only are we going to start to see major changes in the finances of these companies, as well as the price increases on the vehicles themselves, we're also going to see a loss in a lot of vehicles where they're going to stop making certain models because they're not going to be able to profit off of those models anymore once these tariffs are actually put into place, and their profitability on those specific models drops drastically. Now, as I said before, this is potentially going to cause a lot of different issues for different reasons. One, nearly half of all passenger vehicles in the United States are imported vehicles. Vehicles like the RAV4, which has been the best-selling SUV for years, Ram pickup trucks, and of course a lot of others. Another big issue is that automakers are just now starting to recover from the major implications that were put in during the pandemic, the chip shortage, and the drop in inventory during those times. So when it all comes down to it, of course, there are still a few points that are up in the air, but this is definitely something to pay attention to because it's definitely going to affect the economy as a whole. It's going to cause some major changes to the automotive industry, and based off of what we know so far, we're going to start to see a direct correlation to the increased prices of all vehicles very quickly. Me personally, on the outside of certain statements with this, it sounds like it can be beneficial to our economy, but when you really break it down and you start to look at every aspect of it, I see it causing a lot of really major flaws. And if certain things are confirmed, for example, tariffs being in addition to each other, then I personally don't really see this working out very well. But let me know in the comments what you think of these tariffs that are being placed. Do you think that they're going to help the economy in the long run, or do you think that it's just going to cause so much damage leading up to it that it's going to be hard to recover? Let me know what you think, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see next.